Hi everyone, welcome to another Joseki lesson. Starting from this lesson, let's look at this move right here at number 6. I would call this a pressing attachment. It is attaching to number 5 and it's kind of trying to press it down towards the side, right? So that's why I call it a pressing attachment. It's a pretty forceful move that we're seeing more and more these days. Usually, white plays this when it already has some influence on the upper side. But for beginners and amateur players, it's perfectly fine in most circumstances against black's small knight's approach to the corner start point. So today, let's talk about black's number 7 here, Hane, and white's response should be right here, this extension in number 8. In this video, I'll talk about the variations after this setup, which involves black's moves here, and number 9, this diagonal move, this extension, and this attachment underneath. So this is the most standard setup for this Joseki, although in the next couple of videos we'll look at some other variations as well. After this setup, black has a cutting point right here, which is a weakness. And that means black cannot play away, right? If you're a beginner, amateur player, you might be thinking playing away to Nuki. Nope, you cannot do that. If you do that, white will cut you off and number 5 will be captured this way. Now the corner is simply too big, and black is still weak on the outside. So this is definitely not okay for black. But black must do something here. But connecting here is too slow. If white secures the corner this way, it's not 100% secure, it can still come in. But black also owes a move here, right, on the upper side. It needs to extend. Otherwise, these 3 stones will come under attack very easily. So number 9 here is too slow. And it's potentially giving white a big corner territory. So that is why black needs to think about something else. And now the most common Joseki is right here. And this is the one that you must remember from this video. This move protects the cutting point. Now white cannot cut. If it cuts, black will just atari at number 11. If white descends at number 12, black can simply play at number 13. And now these 2 stones will be dead. So this is not okay for white. White shouldn't just sacrifice this stone this way. And the correct move for white is the 3-3 point, this diagonal move right here. And now what happens is that, according to AI and professional players, black can take sente, meaning black can play away. And in this situation, of course, it means playing on the corner, like this, or this. So theoretically, black is not really afraid of white's attack. Black can simply move out like this. Should be okay. This is playable for both sides, and this will just develop into a fight. But of course, many beginners and amateurs might be nervous about an attack, right? So there are 2 things you can do. One is the safe route, but you must know that you're gifting your opponent sente, right? You can just extend here. It's a slow move, but it's a safe move, right? Your opponents can play here in the future and keep developing. But for the time being, again, playing on the corners is much bigger than any of these moves. Right? So this is viable for beginners and amateurs. Professionals and AI will not tell you to do this. Instead, they will suggest right here. Right? This is a pretty forceful move. White must respond. If white extends, then this is much better. Right? This exchange really solidifies black's position here. And black is no longer really afraid of this pincer or any attack like this, because black can move out very, very easily this way. So that is why white will have to hane here at number 12. And what black will have to do is this cut. Right? It is a pretty harsh move that will lead to a fight. And one thing you can do is to fight it out and see what happens. Right? If you like fighting, if you like experimenting, just fight it out and see what happens. Right? This will just develop into a fight that will not play out all the variations. Or another viable variation is for black to simply give up number 13 for the time being and solidify its position here on the upper side. White will have to play a move here. Now number 13 will be captured in the ladder. But sometime down the line, if black plays on the left side, right, this is a potential ladder breaking move that will force white to play something here to secure the capture of number 13. Right? Otherwise, number 13 can still move out this way, and this might give white a headache. So number 13 is not completely dead yet. This is also a variable variation that you can remember, that you can play as beginners and amateurs. But of course, the bottom line is that number 13, this cut, will lead to very complicated variations if black does not give it up. So that is the Joseki for number 9, this diagonal move here. Note that white's attachment here at number 10 is not the optimal move. Black would just wedge here and connect. This way, black is slightly better, according to AI. But I don't think it makes a huge difference for beginners and amateurs. Again, black will have this move. Now it seems much weaker, right? Because white will have to take care of this cutting point, because this will be a double Atari this way. Right? This way will be a disaster for white. So that's why this cut here is much harsher now. So white will probably just have to play here, and again, black can take sente and play elsewhere. So that's why number 10, if you're white in this situation, remember this 3-3 point, this diagonal move is the right move. Now let's talk about a couple other options for black after white's number 8, and that is right here. This is also playable, not as good as the diagonal here, but it's still playable in the age of AI. And if you're white in this situation, you should play right here. And if you're black, you have two choices. One is to connect. This way, white will connect here. And again, black will probably want to play this move instead of an extension. Extension will be a safe but slow move, viable for beginners and amateurs, but a little slow. Once you're a mid-down player, higher down player, this is a little slow. But number 13 here will be good. And again, white will probably want to play the hane. This is more assertive, more active, and black potentially can cut. And this will lead to another fight. Extending here is a little too slow for white. So that's number 11 and 12, or number 11 can be here as well. This also secures the cutting point for black. And what white needs to do now is stand down here. Now this is actually very similar to one of the first variations we saw, where number 9 is here as the diagonal. And this is the equivalent of number 9 and 12 making an exchange. So it really doesn't benefit black that much, right? That's why you probably doesn't want to play number 9. You're thinking about this variation, because number 9 and 12, this exchange doesn't really help black, right? If you play this, you wouldn't want to play here in exchange for white's number 12 here, because white is doing something, it's securing the corner, while black is not doing much. But again, this is a viable variation. Black has a few choices, can take sente, can play here, it's a slow move, can play this and start a fight. But of course, it does make a difference now, because this way, black will be able to capture white. This is not okay for white, right? So it does set something up. But I don't think white needs to be that afraid. This will just lead to another fight, as long as white takes care of its own weakness here with number 16. Maybe this move will do. And again, this will be a pretty complicated fight, moving toward the center. So that's it about number 9. One thing to note about number 9 here, this attachment underneath, is that white cannot wedge here, right? White cannot wedge here. This is definitely a Joseki in the past. I definitely learned this more than 20 years ago when I was starting out, and this is completely eliminated, right? The Joseki is this. If you have old Joseki books, you definitely can see this, right? So it's advised that white takes sente. This shape alone, right, is very bad for white. Look at white's shape. It's very concentrated. It's not doing much. It doesn't have the corner secured, right? It still needs another move here, and the corner is not even that big. And of course, this is the key point for both sides. Black can develop the upper side with number 19 here, and white can develop toward the center with number 18 here. But again, white is super slow, whereas black is super solid, has eye space, has points here. It's like 90–95% alive, right? It'll be almost impossible for white to attack black in this position. Compare this to some of the other variations we saw earlier, where white can potentially attack black even after the Joseki is done, right? So this is terrible, terrible for white. And if white's number 18 is here, it's a huge endgame move. Black can potentially kill the corner this way and occupy the entire corner. So this will be disastrous for white. But of course, if white has a stone here, now black doesn't really have this cut, because white can block this way, gives up number 20, and white will be able to capture black this way, right? So this is one way that white can avoid giving up the corner, but it needs a stone. It needs some help here on the left side. I'm showing this variation because you probably still see this, because I'm pretty sure there are still amateur players out there using old Joseki books and playing this old Joseki as white. But just know that this is already eliminated, doesn't exist anymore in the age of AI, and the consensus is it's not playable for white. This is clearly benefiting black. So that's why the number 10 here is eliminated. Another thing to note would be this cut. Black can just connect here, and white will try to capture number 7 on a ladder. And in this situation, it doesn't work because number 3 here will break the ladder in the end. So even if white can capture number 7 on the ladder, black should be pretty happy just taking the corner this way. Right, this way, and it's an exchange. White has this Ponuki here, right, capturing this 1 stone. It's valuable, but again, white's occupy the corner to start with, and the corner is all blacks, right, in this situation. And it's more than 10 points, about 15 points. So it's definitely playable for both sides, and I would say it favors black. So that's number 10 right here. Last but not least, let's look at this extension, which is the old Joseki, right? In old Joseki books, I don't think they cover this. This is the AI, this is the new Joseki. In the past, this would be the standard move, but now it's a little outdated. I would say this is still playable for beginners and amateurs until you're a mid-dan, higher dan player. It's a little slow, right? Because all white needs to do is to block here, right? So the corner territory here, right? Compare this to this. Obviously, white has a bigger territory in this variation, and black, once again, will have to extend, right? Otherwise, it will come under attack. So this way, it's not great for black. So black will have to extend either this tiger's mouth, this extension, small knight's extension, or this large knight's extension. So all 3 moves exist. Now the consensus is that this tiger's mouth is better, right? It's more solid, takes care of this cutting point, and white has a cutting point here, right? Because black can push and cut, and this will be bad for white if this happens, right? It can't really capture black this way. I think the corner will probably die. And white has all kinds of weaknesses, all kinds of cutting point here on the outside, so this is not playable for white. Right? White doesn't want to fight this way. Or if white cross this way, then these 3 stones will pretty much be dead. Right? So this is also not okay for white. So white will have to take care of this potential push and cut by black after black's number 11. So now the recommended move is right here, this corner closer. Now this cutting point doesn't really exist because white can just push black to the side on the ladder. But of course, you might see this move as well. These all work to guard against this push and cut. So this is, again, viable for a beginner or amateur game, but you're definitely not going to see this in an AI or professional game because it favors white. Similarly, black has this move, right? And now, again, white can hane here, and again, this will lead to a fight. Or if black plays here, now this threat of push and cut is not that severe because white potentially can sacrifice these 2 stones, and this push and cut is already taken care of, right? Black no longer has this push because black is short on liberties. This way, black will be captured, right? So this wouldn't make any sense, right? This will just help white secure the corner. In this way, it definitely benefits white because number 11 is kind of over-concentrated after white's sacrifice here, right? So that's why number 11 is not, it's playable, but it's not recommended. And number 11 here is probably the worst of all these choices because of all kinds of moves that white can still play to keep black on the 3rd line. So it's not suggested that black play here. So if you want to stick to a more classic Joseki as black, after number 9, you should play right here, and white will play this. And black has sente, right, which still counts as something. So that's it for part 1 of this pressing attachment Joseki and number 6. And if you only remember one variation, and that should be the modern AI one, it should be this diagonal move at number 9 and number 10 right here. So this is definitely the most basic shape. As always, you should just try out some of these variations in games and see which ones you like. In the next couple of lessons, we'll talk about other variations that stem from white's number 6. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for your support, and thank you for watching.